Good morning, NFC East, everybody, and a happy Friday here. Once again, you guys know me. You know Tone DeShields, Jeff Kerr here. Tone, I was actually, on the internet this morning before we actually get into some football talk here. Did you know that the first Circuit City opened 25 years ago this week?
Jeez, Circuit City.
Circuit City, man. I remember going to Circuit City for pretty much everything, like when I was a kid. And now they don't even exist.
I haven't been to a Circuit City in years. You know what? Let me do you one better. KB Toys.
Yes.
KB Toys. Oh man, it's funny. I saw this thing on Twitter right before we get into the sports stuff. I saw this thing on Twitter, and it was one of those threads where people say, "Show your age by naming a store."
Yeah.
And someone said Circuit City. And then I topped that and I said KB Toys, and people were just like, "Wow!"
But yeah, like we always went to KB Toys to get like our stuff when we were kids. But
Definitely.
wasn't it weird? Like I seriously ask like some of the kids I coach, "What do you guys do on Fridays?" Because to me, I know what I used to do on Fridays. I would either go to the mall, I watch TGIF, I go to Circuits, I go to Best Buy, I go to Blockbuster. Like, what do you guys do? Just stay on your phones all day?
Yeah, these kids these days, man, and it's a new generation of human. You know what I mean? It's not even just a kid. It's a new generation of human, and I'll be honest. Sooner or later, these phones are going to be connected to a cord, like to our damn necks or to our bodies or something like that. Like it's only a matter of time for these phones to literally like implanted somewhere into our bodies, man. Like these kids these days.
It's crazy too, right? Because you know how people complain about Amazon, people complain about Jeff Bezos. I'm like, people were complaining about Amazon in the 90s. Like, this isn't a new phenomenon here.
At all. But speaking of phenomena, Eagles versus Giants. Here we go, the first matchup of the season. And we all know what happened last time. The Eagles won it, of course, but the last time Jalen Hurts met Daniel Jones, it was the first meeting.
Wasn't pretty
at all. 14 for 31, 3 interceptions. The Eagles lost 13-7. I've never seen Jalen Hurts look that out of sorts in my life. So, it's a new day. It's a new team. It's a new roster. It's a new look Eagles. It's a new look Giants. Both teams have gotten better. But one team is significantly hotter than the other, and that's the Philadelphia Eagles. So I ask you, does Jalen Hurts change the narrative this Sunday?
Well, he's changed every other narrative this season about him. It's funny, Tone. Since that game, I don't have the exact stats on me, but I remember last year when because the next week he had the ankle injury and Gardner Minshew played. He came back and he wasn't mobile at all, and he had like 103 passer rating in the 3 games. And everybody kind of moved the goalpost again. Oh well, they played Washington and they played. I forget who else was on that schedule when they played, but the 3 games he went 3-0 and had 103 passer rating and looked pretty good doing it. Jalen Hurts has only lost 2 football games since that point, and yeah, I'm counting the playoff game too. But if you go by regular season, Jalen Hurts is 14-1 since that loss to the Giants last year, and it wasn't around this time. I think it was 2 weeks earlier. Last year, if I recall, I distinctly remember it because I was listening to Merle and Mike. I was on my way to Baltimore to cover the Sunday Night Football game last year when they played Cleveland. By the way, that was the last we saw. But before Baker Mayfield had his resurgence last night, that was like kind of like the last like time like Baker Mayfield was, I guess we can say, good because he got so banged up in that game. But overall, yeah, I mean, Jalen Hurts has been essentially the best quarterback in the NFL since that Giants loss last year. And I still distinctly remember his words that Monday night game this year when they beat Minnesota, how he remembered that, how he remembered the last time he was on Monday Night Football and how poor he played against the Cowboys and how he wanted to avenge that. Professional athletes say all the time they don't remember their good and bad games. They do. Jalen Hurts does. I think Jalen Hurts is going to prove something this week. I think he's going to avenge those demons at MetLife Stadium.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that. I think Jalen Hurts is one of those guys that he internalizes everything. He's not a guy that's going to wear his heart on his sleeve. He's a guy that's calculated. A guy that doesn't mince words. He doesn't waste words. He doesn't waste energy. And he's done everything this season. Like you said, he's checked every box this season. He's corrected every single narrative. It seems like every single time a question comes up about this young man, he answers it the next day. He always answers the call. And he finds a way to get it done in various ways. So this matchup is going to be really fascinating because the Giants are a team that's kind of plateaued a bit. Saquon Barkley seems to be declining. He seems to be nursing an injury. As a matter of fact, he showed up on their injury report with a neck injury. And whenever I see a neck injury, I don't care how severe.
That scares me to death. Yeah.
I get nervous because the neck is responsible for so many different things. You know, your cerebral cortex is in that area, like your spine, nerve damage. It can be so many different things. I just remember Peyton Manning dealing with that neck injury, and he was never the same quarterback. But Saquon Barkley going up against this Eagles run defense at this present time, a run defense that's starting to find their way, a Saquon Barkley that's declining, that's also the engine for the Giants offense. I just don't see how the Giants pull this one out, Jeff.
You know, it's funny, Tone. So I wrote about the Eagles' playoff outlook the other day for CBS, and we had to mention weaknesses, like what could prevent them from, going to where they need to go. And in the Eagles' case, it's winning the Super Bowl. And it's funny because I was nitpicky on it, and I said, well, their run defense could be better. And then I looked at their numbers for their run defense. Their yards per carry still isn't great, but it's been a lot better the last 3 weeks. I think it's 4.3. But they've only allowed 96 rushing yards per game the last 3 games. So that's since the disaster against Washington, when really Washington, they racked up a lot of yards, but they also carried the ball 49 times against them. So their run defense has been, statistically, it's improved. And I think this is their biggest test of the season. Where Saquon's healthy or not, I think it's the run defense's biggest test because this is a team that they like to control the narrative and run the football.
But couldn't you say the same for the Tennessee Titans last week? A lot of people thought that was the biggest matchup.
Well, yeah, it's going to be like this the next couple weeks because we're in December now, right? Like next week's going to be a big test because you're going to be facing Justin Fields, who, let's face it, Justin Fields is a different animal when it comes to running the football.
Yeah, he is. And the Chicago Bears lead the league in rushing, I believe. But it's so fascinating because, a few weeks ago, we were talking about how the Philadelphia Eagles are going to have to find a way to survive this running back gauntlet that they had to go up against, right?
Oh, they
Aaron
survived
Jones and A.J. Dillon and the Derrick Henry and the Saquon Barkley. And it's so funny. They actually lost to the weaker running back group in Washington. They lost to the weaker running back group. That's so fascinating to me. But they managed to hold Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon still was able to make them look silly a bit, but he's not their premier running back. So he wasn't able to really affect the game as much as he probably would have liked. But again, this run defense is starting to find their way. And
so I wanted to bring this up to you quick.
Yeah.
So you see all my tweets this week. You see what I'm trying to do on Twitter, right? How we all know the narrative. The Eagles don't play anybody. We all know that narrative. So I've been putting out the stats all week. Well, okay, the Eagles don't play anybody. Fine. I'll fire that out. You know how my subtle way of convincing people is. How about the Eagle against current playoff teams? They're 3-0. They are outscoring them by 50 points, which is highest in the NFL. Oh, and all their wins have been by more than one score. So I want to ask you, Tone DeShields, because you are a fan. Why do people seem to move the goalposts with this team? Why aren't they getting the credit they deserve for being 11-1? Or do people just know that they're really good and they're just trying to knock them down?
I think it goes beyond just this team. I think it's a Philadelphia thing. Philadelphia has always been a city that's been brazen, never been shy about letting people know how they feel. And it's a very blue-collar city. The fan base can get rowdy. And we hold our players, our organizations to a very high standard. And we protect our own. We can say whatever we want about our teams. But when someone else says something, okay, we're riding to the wheels fall off. So I look at the way the Philadelphia Eagles have been playing, and they have been correcting every single narrative, Jalen Hurts especially. And I don't think it's really the team. I think it's about Jalen Hurts. People still can't bring themselves to give Jalen Hurts the credit he deserves as a quarterback. They immediately want to point to before when people talk about Jalen Hurts, I pay very close attention. They always lead with the team built around him. They talk about the weapons. They talk about his ability to be mobile. And then they say, by the way, he's an improved passer. I think it's about time that's flipped. Yes, the team is better around him, but that's not as easy to execute as people would like to think. Think about the Denver Broncos, a team that's actually well put together. But look at the quarterback position. You would think a guy like that and Russell Wilson will be able to do at least a mediocre job. But no, he's actually subpar with a good team, a top five defense.
I blame the head coach for that. I'm still giving Wilson a pass on this year, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he's built up the equity to put this season in the trash can and move on. You know, this season was a wash. He's earned that. He has that equity in my book, right? Granted, that fall off is so drastic, it makes me concerned a bit. But again, like you said, he's earned that equity in my book. I think the coaching is just that bad also. But I digress. I think Jalen Hurts is a guy that he's not a sexy player to root for. You know, he's not flashy. He executes, and he doesn't care about his stats. He doesn't care about throwing 300, 400 passing yards a game. He cares about winning the game. He cares about making the plays to win the game.
Doesn't that sound like a young Russell Wilson?
It does. It does. And, you know, I've been trying to refrain from comparing him to Russell Wilson because Jalen Hurts he's unique in my opinion. You know, I think he's a little bit more of a runner than Russell Wilson was, just a little bit more. But I don't know. There's a different aura I get from Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts never wanted to be about him. It seemed like Russell Wilson got to a point where he started to buy into his celebrity just a little bit. But again, Russell Wilson is a separate topic. You know, I have no ill will towards Russell Wilson. He's
that's how I am. I always respected Russ. You know, I know Russ looks up himself on Twitter. I will say that. It's not a bad thing really, but Russ can be a weird dude, but I like him generally. Like
I think that's another thing too. Like Hurts is just a genuinely cool. He's a cool customer. He's somebody you want to be around. He's somebody that you want to, you know, spend that time with. He's someone you want to root for. And
he's that guy. Like it's funny. Jalen Hurts is that guy, and I still remember in the preseason he was wearing like a Friday Night Lights T-shirt. What's the school for Friday Night? I'm drawing the blank right now.
Oh my God!
I'll remember it during the break.
You're taking me back.
Yeah. I'll remember it during the break because that's just how it is. But he's like just wearing that T-shirt in his post-game presser, and it's like, dude, like so many people can relate to Jalen Hurts. He's one of those guys, right? And it's funny, right? You say he's not sexy, but yet when you watch him play, I feel like he's a box office draw just because of he makes those throws and he makes those runs, and they're not like, and you're right, they're not like Lamar Jackson, Robert Griffin III, Michael Vick, Randall Cunningham type runs. But man, do they produce yards? And you're just like, wait, how is Jalen Hurts this instinctive? Like, how is he this wise? And the thing is, he just reminds me of that guy. He could throw for 500 yards, run for 100 in the same game, throw for 5 touchdowns, and I don't even think he bats an eyelash. I just think he's like, yeah, I could have been better on this, or I could have done this better. I love the never satisfied mentality with Jalen Hurts, and he gets that from his college coaches, from his dad, who was a high school coach. It's like this is what I love about Jalen Hurts. I love the people that eat, sleep, breathe football. Like every time I talk to Jalen Hurts, you could just talk to him about football. He'll feel like out of his comfort zone. I don't even want to say out of his comfort zone. I just feel like, you know, he doesn't want to give the media any ammunition. But man, if you talk some football with him, he will go on and on and on. And that's how I am. So I feel like it's a good way to relate to like a player, to any quarterback. And again, this comes from someone who's interviewed Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, you know, the cream of the crop here. You can see why all these guys are great. And it's just the way they present themselves.
Yeah, I put it to you this way, Jeff. Jalen Hurts is a grown ass man. Like he's very businesslike. He shows up to the game with the same briefcase, and it just seems like he's always there to take care of business, man. And you gotta at the end of the day, regardless of how you feel about his play style, you got some people who always talk about his play style, the dual threat quarterback, it won't last, so on and so forth. I don't buy into that. It's at the end of the day, you're going to quarterback the way you quarterback. You're going to play the way you play. And at the end of the day, you live and die by the results. It is what it is.
Again, if you win a Super Bowl, who cares?
And that's another thing. If you win a Super Bowl, who cares, right? But again, a guy like Jalen Hurts, I think he goes into MetLife and he just blows the doors off that team. The Giants are a team right now. They're declining. I don't see them. I don't see them. I think they've hit their ceiling. They've hit their ceiling, and now it's at a point where their engine, Saquon Barkley, he's starting to take a step back. Daniel Jones is starting to step up. Is having to step up more. But
the Giants.
But we also see Daniel Jones' limitations as well.
The Giants' lone win since I think the start of November is against the Texans.
Wow.
So think about that. Like
they haven't won about a month.
Yeah, the Giants started so well that they're going to be in the playoff race by default. And again, who in the NFC has taken this from them? Washington. I actually like Commanders fans. I think they're a very passionate bunch. One of my closest friends in college is a Commanders fan. But it's funny how the Twitter crowd goes, yeah, but we'll take the playoff spot from them. I'm like, oh, wait, what? Because you didn't take it last week.
I can't buy into those Twitter trolls, man. Look, at the end of the day, this kid Jalen Hurts, he's coming. He's coming for everything he's owed. And to see a player jump the way make the jump the way he's made that jump, it's damn near unheard of. It's Josh Allen like.
Everything's business. It's like Mahomes.
Everything's business. He doesn't buy into his own hype. And what I love about him is, and no matter the situation, no matter what happened in the past, he doesn't make any game about him. No matter how a game went previously, like this Giants team, he threw 3 interceptions the last time him and Daniel Jones faced off in MetLife. He's not going to make this about him. He's going to make the winning plays. And Jalen Hurts keeps receipts. He's not going to throw it in your face, but he keeps receipts, and he's going to let his play do the talking. So it's going to be really exciting to see how this thing plays out. I think let's get some predictions in real quick because we have our guy Jody Mack coming up in a second. But this is my prediction. I think the Philadelphia Eagles win this game 38-17. I think this game just gets out of hand very early, and the Giants just don't have the ammunition. They have too many injuries. They don't have the depth at corner. They don't have the depth at wide receiver. They're missing their top corner in Adoree Jackson.
By the way, his injury was the dumbest thing ever.
And they're missing Xavier McKinney, who hurt his hand on an ATV in a bye week.
Here's what I don't get: why was Adoree Jackson returning punts? Your number one cornerback. Why was he returning punts at the beginning? Daboll's been a good coach for them this year, but the last couple of weeks, you're starting to see some of his flaws. And again, that's a first-year head coach. But you're starting to see some questionable decisions he's making. And I just think he got the most out of what he could get out of that team. If that team wins 9 games.
And that's why I think that happened the way it did, because he's been trying to get the most. He's been trying to continue to reinvent this team every single week. Just keep trying to get the most out of him. And I think at that point, he blew his load. He ringed out as much as he could, and then, eventually everything just popped. And now injuries are popping up. Guys are slowing down. And, it's at the end of the day, this is an NFC East matchup. You can't sleep on it. You got to pay attention to it. You got to expect it to be a dogfight. But I just think this Eagles team is just too good, Jeff.
The Eagles have to show up Sunday. That's the bottom line. If they show up, if they don't make mistakes, they'll win the game. That's my prediction.
Absolutely. And we'll leave it at that. Next up, we have the infamous, the man, the myth, the legend, Jody McDonald, the main guy, the head honcho of Burge 365. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East. He's Jeff Kerr. I'm your guy, Tone DeShields II, the super producer. Just keep it locked, you guys. You don't want to miss this.